I didn't know how long I'd been there. All this time we had only been hoping to rescue our father, but this had gone too far. It was all such a blur. Plain and simple, my brother, Charles Wallace, and I have always been different. Our father practically disappeared when Charles was just a baby. He's a child prodigy. I swear he can read my mind, but me? Everyone thinks I'm a troublemaker, when all I really am is lonely. My parents are both scientists. Dad disappeared after an experiment with the fifth dimension, which he calls tessering or wrinkling. After going to this old haunted house down the street, we met Mrs. Whatsit for the first time. After that came Mrs. Who. They promised us they would help us find our father. Mrs. Witch came next, almost out of nowhere. They're amazing celestial women, and I love them very much. Once we were all together, we tessered for the first time, leaving Earth behind. The Mrs. W's took us to the planet Uriel, where we learned about the dangers of our journey to save my father. Next was Camazotz, a planet whose citizens are all under the control of one sole being, it. The Mrs. W's told us we had to continue on our own, and gave us gifts to aid us along our journey. Mrs. Who gave me her glasses. There, we went to a place called Central Intelligence. That's where they were keeping Dad. We met a man with red eyes who was under its trance, too. Unfortunately, its powers were too strong, and Charles Wallace fell under his spell. His soul was taken over by it. We were led to where Dad was being held hostage, and I used Mrs. Who's glasses to save him. It hurt so much to be led by Charles Wallace, because he wasn't Charles Wallace at all. He was it. He led us to where it was held, and we discovered that it is literally a mind, a brain, that controls everyone in Camazotz. His powers were so strong, and he almost got me, but Dad used Mrs. Who's glasses to tesser us away. We ended up on the neighboring planet of Ixchel, and I guess I was paralyzed in some sort of comatose. Dad didn't properly tesser, and we ended up leaving Charles Wallace behind, still under its control. That's when the beasts came. They weren't beasts, really. They have lots of arms and no eyes, but I feel like they're the only beings in the universe that truly see. One of them even nurtured me back to health. I named her Aunt Beast. Which brings us back here. After healing me, Aunt Beast walked away. Her work was done. Only Dad and I remained in the field. That's when the Mrs. W's arrived.
We had to hurry. Did you need us? We felt an absent. Is it the boy?
Father left him. He left him on Camazotz.
And what do you expect us to do?
But it's Charles Wallace. It has him, Mrs. Whatsit. Save him, please, save him.
You know we can do nothing on Camazotz.
You mean you'll let Charles be caught by it forever?
Now, did I say that?
But we can't do anything. You know we can't. We tried. Mrs. Whatsit, you have to save him.
Meg, this is not our way. I thought you would know that this just isn't something we can do.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe we've met.
Father, Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch.
Hello, Mr. Murray.
If you could teach me more about the tessering so that I could get back to Camazotz,
What then?
I will try to take my child away from it.
And you know that you will not succeed?
There's nothing left except to try.
Sir, with all due respect, I don't think you fully understand what's going on. Charles has gone even deeper into it. We simply cannot allow you to throw yourself in with him. For that, you must realize, is what would happen.
Then what are we going to do? Are you just going to throw Charles away? All right, I'll go. I know you want me to go.
We want nothing from you that you do without grace or understanding.
But I do understand.
What do you understand?
That it has to be me. I don't understand Charles, but he understands me. I'm the one who's closest to him. Father's been away for so long, since Charles Wallace was a baby. They don't know each other. Oh, I see, I understand. It has to be me. There isn't anyone else.
I will not allow it.
Why?
Look, I don't know what or who you are, and at this point I don't care. I will not allow my daughter to go alone into this danger.
Why?
You know what the outcome will probably be, and she's weak, now weaker than she was before. How could you even consider such a thing?
Can't you see you're making something that is already hard for Meg even harder?
Are you remembering that she is only a child?
Mrs. Whatsit, can't you just see what's going to happen? Look into the future and tell me what to do?
Oh, not in this kind of thing. If we knew ahead of time what was going to happen, we'd be like the people on Camazotz with no lives of our own, with everything all planned and done for us. How can I put it so you understand? A form of poetry in your language, a sonnet. There are 14 lines, I believe, all in iambic pentameter that follow a very strict rhythm, yes? Mm-hmm. And each line has to end with a rigid rhyme pattern. And if the poet does not do it exactly this way, it is not a sonnet, is it?
No.
But within this strict form, the poet has complete freedom to say whatever they want, now don't they?
So, you're comparing our lives to a sonnet? A strict form, but freedom within it?
Exactly. You are given the form, but you must write the sonnet yourself. What you say is entirely up to you.
I guess I've got to go if I want to get it over with. Each moment we put it off makes it harder.
She is right. It is time.
I need to say goodbye first. I'm sorry, Father.
Sorry? For what?
I wanted you to do it all for me. I wanted everything to be all easy and simple. So I tried to pretend it was all your fault, because I was scared and I didn't want to have to do anything myself.
But I wanted to do it for you. That's what every parent wants. Don't be afraid to be afraid. We will have courage for you. That is all we can do.
Mom was always shoving me out into the world. She'd want me to do this. You know she would. Tell her... No, never mind. I'll tell her myself.
Of course you will.
Mrs. Whatsit, are you going with me?
No, only Mrs. Switch.
When Father tessered, it almost got me.
Your father is inexperienced, though a fine man and worth teaching. At the moment, he still treats tessering as though we were working with a machine. Mrs. Switch won't let it get you.
But suppose I can't get Charles Wallace away from it.
Stop that. We gave you gifts the last time we took you to Camazotz. We will not let you go empty-handed this time. But what we can give you now is nothing you can touch with your hands. I give you my love, Meg. Never forget that. My love always. And Mrs. Who?
What I have to give you this time, you must try to understand not word for word, but in a flash as you understand the Tesseract. Listen well, Meg. The foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world, and things which are despised, hath God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. May the right prevail. I have not given you my gift. You have something it has not. This something is your only weapon, but you must find it for yourself.
This is a level of fear I have not yet experienced. What do I have that it hasn't got? It isn't used to being resisted, and I must go directly to it. I must resist it myself. Is that what I have that it hasn't got? No, I'm sure it can resist. It just isn't used to having other people resist. I'm going to Charles Wallace. That's what's important. That's what I have to think of. Father said it was all right for me to be afraid. He said to go ahead and be afraid. And Mrs. Who said, well, I don't quite understand, but I think she meant for it to make me not hate being only me and me being the way I am. And Mrs. Whatsit said to remember that she loves me. That's what I have to think about, not about being afraid, or not as smart as it. Mrs. Whatsit loves me. That's quite something to be loved by someone like Mrs. Whatsit. What is it I've got that it hasn't got?
You have nothing that it hasn't got. How nice to have you back. We knew that Mrs. Whatsit would send you. She is our friend, you know.
No, she isn't. You know that. As long as I can stay angry enough, it can't get me. Is that what I have that it does not?
Nonsense. You have nothing that it doesn't have.
You're lying about that, and you're lying about Mrs. Whatsit.
Mrs. Whatsit hates you.
Mrs. Whatsit loves me. That's what she told me, that she loves me. Love. That's what I have that it doesn't. I have Mrs. Whatsit's love, and my father's, and my mother's, and the real Charles Wallace's love. and I have my love for them. But how can I use that? If I gave love to it, perhaps it would shrivel up and die. But how could I truly show it love when all I feel is hatred? But I can love Charles Wallace. I can stand here and love Charles Wallace, my own Charles Wallace, the real Charles Wallace, the baby who is so much more than I am and so incredibly vulnerable. I can love Charles Wallace. Charles, I love you. My baby brother who always takes care of me. Come back to me. Come away from it. Come back. Come home. I love you, Charles. Oh, Charles Wallace, I love you. You are my dear and the light of my life and the treasure of my heart. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you, Charles. I love you. I love you. I love you. I could feel the Mrs. W's presence, and suddenly, they were gone. But I could feel us too, Dad, Charles Wallace, and me. I felt the space we all shared. We were whole, we were safe, we were home.